In a rare sight to see, the Harrison Town Hall was packed as the local Policemen's Benevolent Association sparred with the town council over who the next chief of police will be. At the meeting, Harrison PBA State Delegate Joseph Negro said that the union voicing their opinion on who the next police chief should be, as they did in their January 2nd letter to Mayor James Fife, is nothing new.
As everyone knows, our chief announced his retirement and the council called for a civil service examination. Lieutenant David Strumlow ranked #1 by a huge margin. Since before the test was even administered, the mayor and council had given every indication that they intended to promote Lieutenant Ed Markowski. When the results of the test were published, the PBA immediately wrote a letter to the town congratulating all 4 candidates and recommending the appointment of Lieutenant Strumlow to chief as soon as the position became available. For some reason, Councilman Jim Doran wrote a letter and, speaking on behalf of the mayor and full council, took exception to our attempt to influence their decision and told us that any future correspondence from the union would be disregarded. Anyone in local government should know that the union's primary responsibility is to protect its workers and to encourage the governing body to do the right thing. Keep referring to a process which we imagine is an interview. We would like to know, what are you going to learn about these candidates in 30 minutes that you haven't learned in over 23 years of observing, collaborating, and dealing with them on a regular basis?
On that point, Sergeant Paul Yarzinbowitz, a PBA vice president, went on the offensive against Council President James Duran, also the chair of the Council's Police Committee, for subsequently telling the PBA not to get involved with the appointment process and that any future communications about the next police chief would be disregarded.
Councilman Doran further stated any future communications from the PBA regarding the chief of police would be disregarded. Disregard the Civil Service Commission experts. Disregard the police officers who judge you, you trust, protect your community. Does the town council agree, Councilman Doran? Does he speak for you? The mayor and council would be hard-pressed to explain to the town residents and police officers who serve them their logic behind not choosing the candidate who scored first and instead choosing the one who came in next to last.
Additionally, Lieutenant David Doyle, a secretary of the Harrison PBA, urged the council to keep politics out of this important decision.
The moment politics invaded the promotion process, that is ordinarily honest, there were numerous cumulative negative effects. First, the officers themselves begin to lose faith in the system and question the support they have from the town council. While the police will always do their jobs on behalf of the citizens they serve, I can assure you that no one wants a police department that feels their interests have been disregarded. Our department is not split. I'm happy to say that the mere suggestion that this process might not be fair has only served to embolden and unite our police officers. Over 97% of our police officers are in favor of the #1 candidate, Lieutenant Strumlow, being promoted. The reason for this is that the ramifications of not adhering to the results of the civil service test. In our profession, it is the gold standard for making promotions. If these results are disregarded, then every patrolman who studies to be sergeant, every sergeant who studies to be lieutenant, and so on, has to be concerned that the results might be disregarded.
Duran, who was under fire for the majority of the 20 minutes or so of public comment, eventually responded that there was no front-runner for the position of police chief at this time, that the elected officials were doing their best to be thorough in their selection.
Process, and it is important for us to look at the career of an officer. An officer's file is in many ways confidential, so we're not going to talk in that, but we'd like to make sure that there's no civil complaints, that there's no, types of things in the jacket that may not make an individual a good police officer, a good police chief or not. Sometimes a good officer doesn't necessarily always mean a good administrator. And so we want to take a really good hard look at that. So we want to make sure that for the residents of this town, we make the best thoughtful decision. You can have a police chief for the next 15 years. And so it isn't something that we're just going to, within 3 weeks notice of a retirement, going to boom, jump in there and appoint the number per one. We're going to take a look at it, and we're going to make sure that we make whoever we appoint, that at least it's the most thoughtful and honest and best decision for this town. And we didn't think it was a good idea for the union to be stepping forward and saying, we want to pick our boss. So we just said, let us handle the process. That's what our job is. Our job is not to get in a police car right now and police the streets. Our job is to make sure that we have the right personnel to do so.
I'm John Heides with the Hudson County View, the eye of the community.